Welcome to Break the Silence, Build the Future, a podcast dedicated to amplifying the voices of survivors and advocates while shedding light on the pervasive issue of gender based violence. Join us on a journey where survivors find strength in sharing their stories and experts offer profound insight into this critical societal issue. Welcome to episode 20 of Break the Silence, Build the Future. As I had explained to you last week's episode 19 of the show, this episode 20, is the last episode of the season 1 of Break the Silence, Build the Future. Season 2 of the show will start last Wednesday of September 2024. In this episode, I'm not going to get into a lot of details because I spoke about the preliminary hearing, the challenges, how we were troubled by the way the process worked, and the painful experience at least my children had experienced because they were going in and I wasn't, because I might be a witness later on. So I'm not going to get back into those, but if you are interested in hearing the details of that, you might want to go back and listen to the last 4 episodes. I think starting with episode 16. It might be a good idea to hear the entire season, but if you're interested in hearing about the preliminary hearing and the process and my opinion of those processes and how the family is treated during the process, you can listen to those episodes. But basically what I will tell you here is the goal, the purpose, the whole reason preliminary hearing is there is for a judge to hear all the evidence and the witnesses the Crown prosecutor is presenting, and hear the Crown prosecutor argue for a certain kind of charge based on the evidence and the witnesses they have, and also hear the defense's argument against those evidence and witnesses. And after taking into account all that information, then the judge's role is to make a decision on what this person is going to be tried for. That's it. Not a guilt or innocence, not a sentence, but just to decide what this person is going to be tried. That is the role of preliminary hearing, and that is the role for that judge. So that's what we were waiting for. The last day of the preliminary hearing was June the 28th, and the judge announcing her decision was scheduled for August the 8th. But I was very anxious about it. For the entire week starting August the 1st, I had the highest level of anxiety I had ever experienced. My heart was going like this, beating so fast. And I had to continue to pray and to calm myself down. I had to make a conscious effort into keeping myself busy, keeping myself calm, reminding myself there is nothing I can do about this decision. There is nothing I can add or subtract in what this outcome will be. This outcome will be what it will be. But there was something about that weight that didn't really manifest itself throughout the 6 days we had the preliminary hearing. Those days were more frustrating than they were anxiety inducing. Perhaps they were anxiety inducing for my children, who had to sit there and hear things that have happened that I'm not really privy to and I'm not really aware, but I can just imagine how difficult witnessing that was for them. But for me, sitting out there and unable to go in and hear the same thing my children were hearing, so I could debrief with them and talk about and kind of understand where they were coming from and share feelings, share experiences. I didn't have the access to that. So that was more frustrating for me than it was for anxiety inducing. But there was something about this weight that just was shaking me to my core. And as I go through this grieving process and the loss of my daughter and all the trials and tribulations that comes with that, and this criminal process that's quite foreign to myself and to my family, at least I don't know what to expect from this process. So, but what I can tell you is, what I can put my hand on is the fact that the 6 days of the hearing, I was more frustrated. I was more hurt. I was more concerned for my children's well-being, the one that are left out here. And I'm always thinking that I lost one child, and what damage were the 5 that were left outside were experiencing. That was my concern. But what I found was, starting at especially August 1st to the 8th, was this really feeling of being really anxious, being apprehensive of what might be the outcome. And then perhaps about 10 days, maybe 2 weeks before August 8th hearing, I got a call from victim services, and I was told that originally this was scheduled for 10 o'clock to be the first case of that the court dealt with that day. Because as you can imagine, this judge, this court, these lawyers are dealing with several cases on any given day in any courtroom. It's not like this, just this one case they're dealing with. But my understanding originally was it would be the first case of the morning of August the 8th, and we will be done with it. But then I got this call and this email saying that your case was moved to 2 o'clock after lunch break. There will be other cases that this judge, this courtroom, these lawyers, these victim services, these clerks are dealing with in the morning. There will be a lunch break at 1 o'clock, and your case will be at 2 o'clock. That even sent me reeling, and I can't tell you why that was. I couldn't really explain it to you, but it was just this fear that I hadn't experienced before. Okay, I'm just being really honest and painfully honest with you in sharing that and sharing this with you the same time as I explore the reasons for my own feelings. And I don't really know that, because the feelings that were frustration and anger, and I am unable to support my own children to walk this journey with them. For those 6 preliminary hearing dates, I was more frustrated, disappointed, felt cut off from my children, and able to support them through this journey. At least the 4 that were experiencing and going in, and the rest of my extended family. But then this was different. And the reason it was different, I don't know, because it almost kind of like showed a finality, an end to one stage of this terrible journey, an end to one stage of it. I wasn't sure how it's going to end. And even waiting that morning, from when I woke up and got my mother ready to 1:30 when my daughter and I drove out to the courthouse, I was so shaken. I couldn't do anything, even brushing my teeth and washing my face and getting ready to pray my morning prayer. Everything I've done, including taking care of my mother, became really a task that was so difficult for me to manage. We arrived there at 2. The entire thing took less than 10 minutes, if that. The moment my children went in to the courtroom and then coming out, it was less than 10 minutes. But the outcome was as best as I could have hoped for the charge. Soon as my daughter walked out and told me that, I started sobbing. And I want you to keep in mind, when I told you I'm sobbing, that when the police officers came that night, Monday, June the 5th, 10 o'clock, a little bit after 10 o'clock that the police officers came, they told me that he was arrested for my daughter's murder. I didn't cry. I had this cold air course throughout my body, inside my veins where the blood is coursing. That's what I had. So when I'm sobbing here, you could understand the contrast this when I got this awful news last June. And the only way I could explain this is I really did not get to a place where I can grieve for the loss of my daughter. I think somehow, somewhere in my mind, I am waiting for this trial to end. Perhaps then I can grieve normally, whatever that is. What does it look like? Is there a sign? Is there a description of how a mother should grieve for the loss of her child? I don't know. But it was really interesting and that I don't know why that happened. But it was just automatic reaction that my body's reacting just like that cold air that I needed a blanket. And I was shaking like this. My teeth were chattering when we got that news. Everybody else in the house was crying. But I couldn't cry. Perhaps it's not really real in my mind until we get to the sentence, probably. And if everything goes right, we are a year out of an actual trial. So imagine it will be the earliest next summer or next fall of 2025. That would be the earliest we could get. So we're another year out. But that was really interesting. I wanted to come here and share that with you. What does a normal reaction to a mother who had lost her child look like? Why did I cry when the decision was made by the judge, not when the officers came and they actually told me he was arrested for her murder? Why is that? I don't know. But I promise you this. I promise you I will share with you my experience in this journey as honest and as unfiltered as possible. I'm going to end this episode here, and the season 2 of Break the Silence, Build the Future will start last Wednesday of September 2024. Season 2 will mainly be other people who lived, survived, experienced intimate partner violence, experts who deal with, advocate for, support people living, surviving intimate partner violence, families of those lost in intimate partner violence or living or surviving intimate partner violence, share their experience. I look forward to sharing with you season 2 of Break the Silence, Build the Future. Until then, thank you for coming along with me on this journey as we break the silence and build the future.